The Kings didn't exactly have the greatest of Novembers. It's not the most fun of times right now as a Kings fan. And so, I think we should look at something positive that came out of November. And so it is time for the player of the month for November. If you want to be able to vote on who the player of the month is, you can become a member and there will be a vote. As always, shout out to No Rain and Joe Mama for being members and supporting the channel. With there being only 2 votes, I am the tiebreaker. So if you kind of want to become the tiebreaker, you can become a member. But to me, it felt pretty obvious that the player of the month was De'Aaron Fox for the first full month of the season. Despite the Kings not being very good in this month, it was not Fox's fault. He had an amazing statistical month, averaging 29.3 points per game, 5.3 assists, 5.1 rebounds. He had 1.6 steals per game, shot 50.6% from the field, shot 35% from three, 78.5% from the free throw line, and had a lot of responsibility at times with some of the injuries that the Kings were dealing with. He had to carry the load offensively. The Kings wasted some of his amazing performances. Of course, the 60-point game that kind of got wasted there because he didn't have much help. And then they almost wasted the 49-point game. But Fox, he didn't start out this season the strongest, and he didn't really start out the month of November in top form yet. I mean, his first game in November was pretty good against Atlanta. He scored 31 points, did it extremely efficiently. But then he followed that up with a back-to-back game against the Raptors where he played 43 minutes. It went to overtime. The Kings lost. He went 0 for 11 from 3. And so I think the real turning point, I mean, of course, like he was still scoring before this, but I think the real turning point for him was the game on November 13th against Phoenix. It came after a 20-point loss to the Spurs, and it kind of felt like this was the game where he went back to basics and kind of went back to what he is really good at. In the game, he went 11 for 17, 1 for 2 from 3, and scored 29 points. He also had 10 assists, but the biggest thing for me was that he only attempted 2 3-pointers. Now, that's not something that he's continued on doing. You don't expect him to only take 2 3-pointers, but I think that's kind of symbolic of the change that was made and the switch that was flipped, where that was when he just decided that he was going to get into the paint on every single possession. And then from that point on, he on to score 60, 49, 28, 29, 31, and then has cooled off a bit with 14, 26, and 22 points. Because with Fox, it's never been about a lack of talent. I think it's been about a lack of consistency at times. And it's about the consistency that he would get into the paint. Fox is at his absolute best when he's driving into the paint using his speed, but then playing off 2 feet and getting to his floater and his short mid-ranger. And that's exactly how he had success. Last season and at the beginning of this season, his in-between game just felt a lot less consistent than it had in the past when he had a lot of success. Obviously, he developed more of a 3-point shot, and that can be helpful, but the change that he has made is that he's working inside out. It's not even that he's necessarily taking less threes now, but it's that he's setting up his outside shot with all of his moves inside the 3-point arc. And even more than that, he's setting up his long mid-range shot with the stuff inside. He's working inside out. He's getting to the rim. He's getting a few baskets to go down. Then he's getting to the floater. He's getting to his very short mid-ranger, or he's getting to the free throw line. And then once he starts feeling it, that's when, he gets guys off balance with fakes going to the rim. He steps into that 3-point shot. Or obviously, he can always step into the 3-point shot off the catch. That's never really been the worry. But it's when he gets guys off balance, then he can step into very clean, longer range shots. And when he's more in rhythm, he's a lot more likely to hit those shots. That's exactly what he did in that Minnesota game, where he got to the rim at will, was playing off 2 feet, using all sorts of ball and head fakes to get his defender in the air, get to whatever floater he wanted. The floater was absolutely automatic. The floater is what makes Fox a special player. Using his speed and then being able to finish with the floater with the speed that he has. He ended up going 6 for 10 from 3 in that game against Minnesota. But that's not how it started at all. Most of those threes were much later in the game. In overtime, he hit 2 of those threes. And obviously, some of it was because he was just tired, right? But he was feeling it so much, seeing all those baskets go down inside. Then once he got a little more tired, didn't want to drive all the way to the basket, maybe it was a little tougher, and the defense maybe was loading up a little more against him, that's when he activated the outside shot. And so when it comes to Fox being a successful player, it really feels like it's a lot about shot selection. Because another thing that is helped when he is getting into the paint is that's what's going to create open looks for his teammates. Because when sitting on the perimeter, not getting into the paint, I mean, he's not moving the defense at all. When he's driving into the lane, getting into the paint, that's when he's able to kick out 2 open shooters, and that's what he has been doing. Now he's only averaging 5.3 assists per game. He should be averaging more. His teammates can't make a shot. Like he is very high up on the potential assists leaderboard. But yeah, he doesn't have that help right now, which is unfortunate. Guys are not converting off of the open looks that he's getting them, but he is getting them those open looks. And I think the thing that's the most impressive is he's been doing it against some very good defenders. When you look at the game against Atlanta in the middle of the month, yes, the Kings ended up losing that game, but again, it wasn't Fox's fault. He had 28 and 7. He was playing very well, and that was against Dyson Daniels. And Dyson Daniels is a guy that has given Fox a lot of problems last season, but you couldn't see any of that this time. He also was going up against Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and obviously Rudy Gobert at the rim when he went for 60. He scored an efficient 29 points against a very good Clippers defense. And so it's not like he's just beating up on bad teams. I mean, he beat up on Utah for 49 points, but he's doing it against some elite defenders that are being put on him. He's had to be on the ball a lot more and be in a playmaking role a lot more, with Monk being out for a good amount of the month, with DeMar missing some games, with Sabonis missing some games. He had to take on more responsibility. But I think his offensive role when he doesn't have to take on that responsibility is interesting. And there kind of has to be a balance that's reached about how much he's on the ball and how much he's off the ball. But I do think we have seen him have a lot of success, mainly when he's off ball, when he's coming from that right-hand corner. That's where the Kings have been setting him up for the entire season. He comes off screens from that right-hand corner to get him going onto his left, get him in space in the middle of the court. And that has been extremely effective this season. That requires another ball handler to be handling the ball at that point and then get him the ball. And so, we didn't see as much of that with guys out. But I think what we've seen a lot of is DeMar setting up on the left hand low block or down near the baseline, kind of posting up. And then you have Fox coming around a screen, getting onto his left hand. And that has been extremely effective when he's been able to play off ball. I also think another thing that we've seen that's very effective when Fox is on the ball is when he's getting guard-to-guard screen action. I feel like most of the time it is Keon Ellis. When Keon Ellis comes up, sets a screen for him, that's when Fox is at his best, because Keon is going to immediately pop out to the perimeter and provide a knockdown shooter that defenses have to respect. And if they don't, Fox is going to make the easy pass over to Keon, and it's going to be a 3 every time. But that's really what's opened up a lot of space, because I think the Fox and Sabonis pairing, it's a good pick and roll or dribble handoff pairing, but I kind of like the guard to guard more because I think it opens up more space. Fox, he isn't Malik Monk. He isn't an elite pick and roll playmaker. He's not going to be finding these pocket passes to Sabonis to get Sabonis easy looks at the rim. Like, that's not really Fox's game. Fox is looking to score, or if the defense collapses, he'll kick out to the perimeter. He's not usually finding the interior passes. And so when it's that guard to guard screen action, it's just opening up more space in the middle of the floor. And I think we've seen a lot of success from that, especially when it's a 5-out offense. And Sabonis has been shooting much better from 3, so that's helped. But also when it's like smaller units with Trey Lyles playing at the 5, obviously he's out now, but with Trey Lyles at the 5, that was super effective. So it's just really all about finding ways to get Fox going downhill and get him into space in the paint. Once he gets that one-on-one matchup, he's going to drive one way, and if the defender stops him, then he's just going to stop, and he's going to drive the other way. Like, one-on-one, you're just not going to stop Fox when he has his mind set to getting to the rim. Really, the only time when he's going to be stopped is when he stops himself, like when he loses control of the dribble, which we saw a lot of early in the season, and it's kind of coming back lately a little bit, like him just losing control of the ball. It's upped his turnover numbers a bit, and it might be just having the wrap on his finger, because he's doing all of this with a hurt finger on his dominant hand, which is crazy. He's constantly grabbing at it. You can tell it's bothering him. And so for him to be doing all this while injured is really insane. But I do think that's why sometimes you just see him just losing the handle, and sometimes his own speed is too much for him and he loses the ball. So turnovers have been a bit of an issue, but if he's going to score 29 a game and get 5 assists per game, averaging 3.8 turnovers in this stretch, you can live with that for sure. Offensively, it's just about him finding that consistency. Of course, he's never going to score. He's not going to score 30 every night. He just needs a little more help offensively right now from the rest of the team, so that in the moments where he's not going for 30, he can still step up in the big moments to get the team on track, in those momentum moments or in the clutch when the team needs him most. Even when he's having a bad game, he's going to be the guy to take those shots, especially when DeRozan isn't playing. So the Kings just need to find some more offense without him, because he definitely cannot do it by himself, and he wasn't able to in this month of November. He won us some games, without him. I don't even want to know what this month would have looked like, but hopefully we see this type of consistency that he had in November carry on to the rest of the season, and this type of mindset from him offensively. I also think you can really see when he's locked in, when he's kind of feeling it on the offensive end, it translates to the defensive end as well, because he gets a lot of buckets for himself in transition by reading passes and going for these steals. He gambles a lot on steals, but I think more often than not, it works out. And he's been super solid defensively this season so far, and especially in November here, where he's able to just make guys uncomfortable. He makes guys uncomfortable by not playing just like standard defense, staying in front of his guy. He plays a very herky-jerky style of defense, and it makes guys uncomfortable because he's not always right in front of them. And sometimes he can get burned by that a little bit, but he's so fast that he's kind of able to like play on their side, sometimes play behind them, and then he recovers back in front, and he's just like constantly swiping at the ball, trying to get deflections, trying to get steals, and using his physicality defensively. And that's something that Mike Brown preaches. That's something that this Kings team needs to do, is be physical and make players uncomfortable offensively, because they don't have the best, individual personnel defensively. So I think Fox is doing a good job leading by example in that regard defensively. There have been a lot of times when it feels like we kind of need a big play late in a game to get into it, and he'll come up with a steal and go the other way and get a basket. And those are massive momentum plays. I wish, obviously, that the Kings could have done better in November. I wish they didn't waste a 60-point game, but it still was fun to see Fox dominate and go through this type of dominant stretch that we've seen from him in the past. We know he can go through dominant stretches like this. It was very fun to watch. Hopefully he can continue to consistently get into the paint going forward. And if he can keep doing that, then it's going to give this team a chance to be able to turn things around here. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to vote on the next Players of the Month, you can do that by becoming a member. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.